It's Thriving Thursday. I am Dr. Janine Ridgway of Better Health Solutions, and I am known for giving people hope and guidance in overcoming their chronic and non resolving health issues, and also helping with energy and vitality to optimize wellness. So, I'm going to start with a verse like I like to do. This one is coming out of Blessed and Unstoppable, Billy Alsbrooks. I'm not going to read the whole reading, I just want to read one Bible verse and one thought. And this is going to be Job 42:10. And the Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he had prayed for his friends, and the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. The greatest gift you can give the world is prayer. Interceding for others releases heaven's blessings on both you and the person you're praying for. The more you pray, the more you allow the Holy Spirit to intervene in your life and in the lives of those around us. So, what the world needs more of right now is prayer, right? All right, so today we're going to talk about metabolic health. I have a nice little presentation that I've put together for you. And my goal is to just help you understand something that you're hearing a lot about out there on social media. There's a lot of buzz about berberine. And so I want to set the record straight with some information on that particular nutrient. And I want to just talk to you about metabolic health and the things that matter most, the things that are underlying a lot of the chronic and degenerative disease that we see today. So, without further ado, let's jump in. I'm going to go right here to this little presentation that I've put together for you. And it's called Beyond the Weight Loss Hype. Okay. So a lot of people hear about berberine and, they get excited and you hear all of this information floating around about GLP-1s. And there's a lot of questions. So this is what I want to address with you today. And I want to just kind of give you a little bit about what I do clinically and how it fits and how it works and why it works. All right. So people think that berberine is a natural GLP-1. That's what everybody is saying. Science tells a different story. There's a lot of hype about Ozempic and all these GLP-1 medications and what they do and how they work. And so you'll hear, oh, well, berberine is a natural Ozempic. Well, actually, it is not. It's more like a natural metformin, but we'll get into that. The reality is that berberine really supports the whole metabolic process. It supports the metabolic machinery. And that is a good thing because it does help you get to the root of some of the reasons why weight loss or fat loss or metabolic health in general has become an issue. So, our goal is not to just chase numbers, not to just chase weight loss, but to build metabolic health. That's always going to be the goal. Now, this is what I want you to understand. I want you to understand the mechanism of how insulin works. So, when cells stop listening to insulin, a systemic cycle begins. What insulin is like the key that unlocks the cells and allows sugar to get into the cells so that it can be used for fuel, okay? So, when insulin is not being listened to, the blood sugar starts to rise. The cells become less responsive to insulin the more they're inundated with sugar and the more this machinery breaks down. So this starts to become a cycle. But when the blood sugar starts to rise, it causes the pancreas to release more insulin. The pancreas is like, okay, the signal's not getting through, so let's make more. So it's releasing more insulin, and this starts to fatigue the pancreas. But it starts to fatigue the pancreas, and yet now we have more sugar in the blood and we also have more insulin because the cells are still not listening. So, what does that do? Well, insulin is actually a fat storage hormone. And this is something that I always teach patients, and they're shocked because a lot of people just don't have any idea why they're struggling, why they seem to be doing the right things, but they can't lose weight. And I'm like, okay, let's look at your let's look at your diet, let's look at your lifestyle, let's look at your patterns. Because if you're constantly keeping your blood sugar high and you're constantly stimulating insulin, you're going to have a problem because insulin is an anabolic hormone. It is a fat storage hormone. It actually cuts off fat burning. Okay, so if we want to stroke the metabolism, keep our fat burning high, we've got to keep our insulin low. Over time, this high insulin, this high blood sugar really does start to create a systemic drain. And that is one of the things that underlies all of the chronic and degenerative conditions. So, are you with me so far? Now, I love this graphic because people don't understand how far reaching insulin resistance really is. And I've got this book right here. I mention this book a lot. This is Why We Get Sick by Benjamin Bickman, PhD. I love this book because the whole book is about this right here. It's about how insulin resistance is at the root of so many other things. So, one of the things it's at the root of is non alcoholic fatty liver. Um, Sugar, particularly fructose, a lot of the processed foods, a lot of the sweet drinks that are high in fructose actually drive non alcoholic fatty liver. They damage the liver just as much as alcohol, and it's a big, huge problem. It's at the root of cardiovascular disease. Yes, yes, it actually stimulates and accelerates endothelial dysfunction, which is the blood vessel dysfunction. That's cardiovascular disease. It also causes your blood to be more prone to clotting. Okay, so when your insulin is running high all the time, you're more prone to blood clots, and of course, going down the road to all the things that blood clots cause. It causes dyslipidemia. What is that? High cholesterol, high triglycerides, all the stuff that people get put on some of the major medications for. The things I call it one of the big three, one of the big three that you find when you go to the doctor. Um, but that is promoted by high insulin and insulin resistance. Metabolic syndrome. This is when you have a clustering of high cholesterol and high blood pressure and central adiposity, which is where you have too much fat in the middle. Okay. And this is what most of us are trying to combat, that belly fat. It's actually dangerous, especially when it's around your organs. And then with women, high insulin causes high testosterone and polycystic ovarian syndrome, or whatever they're calling it now. I know they just changed the name. In men, it causes high estrogen. Well, men are supposed to have high T, not high estrogen. So that's also problematic. And the key thing about this is that a lot of doctors are not testing for it. And insulin resistance actually always precedes type 2 diabetes by about 10 to 15 years. So there's a lot of time in there where if you know what's going on, you can fix it. You don't have to go down the road to prediabetes and diabetes and heart disease and all of these things that your family may have had. You can actually fix it. So, how berberine works, how this comes into the picture. Just to explain, but we're going to get to the foundation because the foundation is really more important. But people are buzzing about berberine, so I want you to understand. Berberine actually activates a metabolic master switch, okay? So it really helps your body to deal with this insulin sensitivity. And that's huge. It is a really big deal because when your insulin works better, all of those problems I just showed you on the previous screen get better. When your body starts listening to insulin, the pancreas gets to rest. It gets to produce less, and that sugar actually gets into the cell where it can be used for energy and not stored as a triglyceride, which gums up the works in your arteries. Um, it reduces excess glucose production by the liver, and it improves the lipid metabolism and fatty acid oxidation. What is that? Fat burning. Yes, fat burning. We want to improve the fat burning and decrease the fat storage, right? All right, so this was exciting. This is from a study that compared berberine to metformin. Now, metformin is the most common diabetes drug. Whenever you are pre-diabetic or diabetic or have PCOS, they typically will prescribe metformin. Now, a lot of people struggle with metformin. A lot of people have reactions to metformin. But when we looked at this, was really exciting. Looking at this clinical study where berberine was compared to metformin, and I believe they used 500 milligrams 3 times a day. Just in transparency, that's what they used. Um, but looking at the A1C, which is a 3 month or so average of what your blood sugar has been doing, it's actually looking at the damage that high blood sugar has been causing in your cells. But that's another day. But anyway, looking at your A1C, this is the number that they use to diagnose prediabetes. This is the number that they use to diagnose diabetes. And this is also the number that they use to monitor your diabetes to make sure it's going in the right direction when they do put you on medicine, typically starting with metformin, adding insulin, and a lot of times adding these GLP-1 drugs. Okay, so we have with the berberine group, the A1C started at 9.5 and went down to 7.5. With the metformin group, it started at 9.2 and went down to 7.7. So you can see berberine was huge. It was just as effective as a medication. Wow. Now, the fasting glucose. 191 down to 123 with the berberine, 186 down to 136 with the metformin. With lipid markers, this is where we see a huge difference. With the lipid markers, there was a 21% reduction in triglycerides. There was only a 2% reduction in LDL with metformin. There was a 22% reduction in LDL with berberine. That's pretty exciting. Now, this is not medical advice. These findings are promising. It's not meant to say berberine is a substitute for any prescribed medication. You got to deal with that with your prescribing doctor, okay? Let me be clear. But I just want you to know that these natural substances found in plants, found in nature, are very, very powerful and they can make a huge difference, especially when you look at the foundation first. Now, who may benefit from something like berberine? People with blood sugar imbalance. If you know you have blood sugar imbalance, if you know you have pre-diabetes, diabetes, type 2, all of those things, you can definitely benefit. Metabolic syndrome, fatty liver support, insulin resistance, triglyceride levels, and of course, weight management. Because again, insulin is a fat storage hormone, making it really hard for you to release the fat that you're trying to release, making it very easy for you to put it on. And so we want to balance that out. Now, this is where we get to the key of this whole presentation. This is my clinical philosophy. I believe that we need to start with a strong foundation. Supplements work best with a strong foundation. Yes, I recommend supplements every single day. Yes, I take supplements every single day, but I also talk about the lifestyle factors that are more important. They actually come first. They are non-negotiable. So we're going to get to those on the next screen. Once you have that strong foundation of the lifestyle, then you're going to start to customize. You're going to start to look at some testing. One of the things I do, I test A1C, I test insulin resistant. I mean, your fasting insulin. I want to see where it is because your fasting insulin is going to be it's going to show up even earlier than A1C. But I test these things because I don't want to guess. Sometimes, some of the bioenergetic testing and the muscle testing and all of that is great, and they will show a lot of this too. However, seeing that actual blood is something that is just unmatched when it comes to metabolic health. You want to see that, you want to see where you are so that you know which direction you're going in. And then once you have that information, you can truly target that intervention. And berberine is one of those targeted interventions. So, all right, building that foundational layer. These are the keys. Making sure you're getting adequate protein, leading off your meal with protein. When you have your protein first, the sugars that are in the meal, the carbohydrates, they don't have as strong of a hit to the bloodstream. I know this because every now and then I'll put on one of those Lingo continuous glucose monitors and I can see exactly what's happening. And that makes a huge, huge difference. Proper hydration, making sure you're getting enough water so that all your cellular processes can go the way they need to go. Sleep. I cannot stress how important sleep is. Going to bed early. I'm still preaching to myself on this one, but the hours before midnight are much more restorative than the hours after midnight. So, getting a good night's sleep and going to bed earlier is key. You do a lot of your fat burning and cleaning out and detoxification and insulin balancing at night while you're sleeping. So, it's important. Movement. Movement, again, when it comes to metabolic health, movement is supreme. Again, I have seen while I'm wearing a continuous glucose monitor that if you walk, it doesn't have to be long. It can be 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If you walk around the block after a meal, makes a huge difference with your metabolic health and your body's ability to take that sugar, get it in the cells, utilize it, and be done with it. You want to get that in the muscles so they can just be burned up and done with it. Handling your stress. Now, I've also seen stress in and of itself can cause spikes with your blood sugar and insulin because stress promotes cortisol, and cortisol actually gets your body to create new sugar. Yeah, it does. And I've seen this on the monitor. I have been in a fasted state, gotten in a really stressful state, speedboat on vacation, and ended up with a blood sugar spike because of the stress. So you have to balance your stress. This answers one of the questions that people often ask when they're confused about why their sugar or insulin is running high when they don't eat a lot of sugar. It could be this. It could be your stress management. It could be the load on your nervous system, the overdrive, the sympathetic dominance, the stuck on go. So that's part of the foundation. Really looking at that and seeing, is your body open and ready and willing to heal. And then digestive health. That is key, paramount. It always will be. We've got to be able to break down the nutrients, properly deliver them to the cells so that the body knows that it has what it needs and doesn't cause all these cravings trying to get the nutrients. Okay, so the foundation in action, dietary fiber and insulin. This is a little side note, but I want you to understand that dietary fiber, particularly that soluble fiber, like fructooligosaccharides, for instance, inulin, these things actually feed the cells in the gut that make your natural GLP-1. Yeah. So it's going to help to balance your hormone, your hunger, your satiety. Um, I'm going to read this right here. In one study, 84% of participants maintained healthy glucose levels after just 3 days on a plant-based high fiber regimen. High fiber, what? Americans don't get enough. We just don't get enough. And so we need to increase that. There is a supplement that OHS has called Fiber GLP-1, and it is the specific fiber that feeds the cells that do all of this. So that's important. Okay, now I mentioned during the customization phase that one of the things that's key is functional testing. Functional testing, looking at your A1C, your fasting insulin, your lipid panels, your inflammatory markers. We need to see what's going on. Now, because not everybody tests on a regular schedule, there are certain nutrients that you can take just to make sure you're covering all of the bases. And I will often have someone that's not doing a full program do a custom pack that just has all of these nutrients that are going to support metabolic health. Because for the most part, unless you're already doing something to make sure you're metabolically healthy, you probably need the support. Lifestyle assessment and personalized nutrition. This is going to be, again, looking at those foundational pillars, making sure we have all of those daily habits in check. The Healthy Habits Tracker app is great for getting you on track and making it a habit until you can until you get to the point where it's just easy, where it just flows. Having a checklist every day really, really helps. And I'll sometimes open that up and do a 21-day challenge just to make sure, okay, I'm getting everything back on board. And then, of course, the targeted intervention, the key nutrients, the berberine. Now, the berberine that I use, I'm going to go over and show you. Actually, I'll just finish this presentation and then I'm going to go over and show you. Um, so, berberine is a powerful tool for metabolic health, but it is not a shortcut. True health is built from the ground up. We have to start with the foundation. We have to shift the focus to building the foundation, understanding your data, and then using the interventions strategically. Okay? That's just the bottom line. Now, I'm going to go and show you. This is what I use for berberine. It's called Essential Control. It's a phenomenal product, as are all of the OHS products. The reason why I like this one is because you have berberine, you have some other nutrients in there too that are really good for your immune system and support that way. But every nutrient in this line is pre-digested, which means you can actually get a better benefit with less. A lot of times you'll see, oh, don't stay on this for too long, or this might do this to you, this might do that to you. Well, what we're looking at is therapeutic doses that are also in the range of just what somebody would eat. Look, we're not looking at these high dose synthetics that cause a lot of problems, okay? We're looking at whole food nutrients that are then pre-digested so that the body can extract all of the goodness and you don't need a lot. So here, I'm just going to show you, this is the label. It's called Essential Control, and reduces nagalase in the body. Now, this product contains some ingredients that have nothing to do with the blood sugar, but have everything to do with the immune system and helping to be anti big C and antiviral and that kind of thing. So that's what reducing nagalase does. And then it helps to naturally regulate the blood sugar and the insulin response. Love, love, love this product. It has been a game changer since it came out. Now, I will often recommended inside of the fat reduction pack. And the reason why I do that is because the fat reduction pack has that capsule in it. Let's see if I can make this bigger. There we go. The fat reduction pack has that essential control in it, but then it also contains these nutrients that really support the metabolic health. So we got probiotics and whole food vitamin mineral and fat sugar trim, which also helps with the insulin response and with cravings and that kind of thing. And also breaking down those triglycerides that are already there so that your body can clear those and helping you to use sugar appropriately. Um, so many good nutrients, the vitamin D, which is key, liver kidney support. Everything works together. Our bodies don't work in a vacuum. Our bodies are very much things are all related. And so we want to support that way too. So this is mine, just to let you know, I do practice what I preach. Mine says Dr. Janine Fat Attack Pack because I've taken that fat reduction pack, which you can buy right off of the website, and I've just added some thyroid support to it. So mine is actually done in a custom pack, but this is what they look like. The fat reduction pack is 7 capsules twice a day. Mine is 8 capsules twice a day. I've added some thyroid and iodine, but it looks like this. Got my name on it, and then it's got everything that I need in here. So I take these because, I'm 53 now. I've got to support my metabolism more so than I ever have in the past. And so I want to make sure that I've got all these nutrients. Now, I know some people look at this and you're like, oh my God, that's so many pills. And I'm really just gonna look at you and roll my eyes. I won't do it on camera, but I'm like, oh, come on, suck it up. It's worth it. But for those of you who cannot, I do have a product that's a powder. It is a berberine powder. Now this has ashwagandha, turmeric, the berberine coming from barberry root. It's got lemon and apple cider vinegar and cayenne and ginger. And so I like to make a little cocktail. So what I do is I get a glass of water and I like my pretty glasses. So this is a little clear mug. And I take a glutathione. The glutathione is effervescent glutathione, which actually is absorbable, unlike oral glutathione. So I take that and I'm gonna plop it in here. I'm gonna show you. I like my demos, right? So I like my demos. I'm gonna let that effervesce. So when this product was being designed, what they found was that there's a process, a cryogenic effervescent process that actually shrinks the molecule because glutathione is a really big molecule, which is why most of the products out there are not absorbable. You can't absorb it orally. So this process of effervescing actually shrinks the molecule and so it can be absorbed. You let it effervesce and then you drink it when it finishes. And what I do is I make that and it's sweet. It tastes like almost tastes like an orange tangy kind of thing. And then I take a scoop of this berberine ACV because apple cider vinegar is another thing that actually supports the insulin response. So I take a scoop of this and I put it in there with the glutathione. And then I just stir that up. And this is a little, I actually love this little cocktail because it tastes, I don't drink kombucha, but it reminds me of what I think kombucha tastes like because it's got that vinegar. It kind of tastes like sweet vinegar, kind of. Can't really describe it. But anyway, that's what I do. I'll go ahead and drink that down. So I've got my berberine in liquid form, but you know what? I prefer the custom packs because I like to get all of those different things. But some people are not like me. So if you want the link to that, just reach out to me and I'll give you that. Anyway, that's it. That's all. Have a great, thriving Thursday, and I will see you next week. I'll be doing more of the videos. I got to get this off of my hands because got powder on my fingers. I'll be doing more of the videos, here, there, periodically. It just takes a little bit more work getting it all together, and the schedule has been insane. But anyway, nice to be back here with a little bit more information for you. And I will see you next week. All right. So have a wonderful day. Bye.